Hey all, welcome to Airtime Paintball, where people come to find out all the information they need to get good deals on paintball stuff. Today, a couple of hoppers. Thanks for coming back. Today we're taking a look at a couple of hoppers, a couple of my favorites, some of the best deals you can get. We've got the Spire Ir from Virtue and the Protoyz Speedster. Let's take a look at the Speedster first, shall we? This is meant to be an economical hopper. In fact, I believe that it's mostly aimed at fields for a rental market, but also an excellent entry-level marker for recreational players and also for mech use, which is what I use it for. These are $69.95, and I brought my little list up here, and I forgot to click on it so I could see it. I'm sorry, $64.95. Planet Eclipse is bringing these in. I'm not sure what the relationship is with Protoyz and them, but they're bringing them in any case. Super heavy duty. It's a GRN body that's glass reinforced nylon. Unbelievably tough, and that comes with some heft. I mean, it's a little bit of a heavy hopper, I'm going to be honest with you. But it's an agitator style hopper, and you can see there's a speed feed on here. It doesn't come with a speed feed. It actually comes with a solid rain lid style. I'm going to cover the speed feed in a minute. This is not available from Protoyz for this. But let's just talk about the hopper itself. Super heavy duty. The power button on the back actually comes with a replacement. I was mentioning that one of the main target markets for this is for rental gear at fields, and it comes with a replacement for this power button where it's just a flat panel and you can't turn it on or off. There's just a hole, and you've got to stick a little tool, like a little Allen wrench, and you can press it in and out and turn it on and off with a tool. But the idea is that your rental customer will leave it alone and it'll just run. Runs on 4 AA's. That's part of the reason it's heavy. And it is an agitator. Here, let me show how it pops open first. It's toolless, which is super cool. I think this has got to be the least expensive toolless hopper. There's a little clip inside here. I know that's going to be hard to see on the video, but it's very simple to move. There's a little retainer that stops you from moving the clip back and forth. You shove that down to get it out of the way, and then this clip bends and it just comes apart. Super simple. This thing barely flexes at all. Very heavy duty. This is a hopper that you can just bang around your gear bag forever and it will just never fail. One thing about the halves going together, there's sort of a tongue and groove arrangement here, which should seal out paint nicely and also seal out water if it's raining. Here we can see the tray. I'm going to call this kind of a hybrid drive design because it is an agitator. You can see the agitator spins, right? But you can see here, it's not just agitating, right? As the tines here turn around, it's going to feed paint into this sort of raceway that leads to the tube or the feed neck, right? So when the ball is in this area here, it is being pushed, or I don't want to say forced, but pushed in there after a fashion. So it's a little bit like a force feed in that way. I'm going to call it kind of a hybrid agitator design. Feeds very well. This will do. I'm going to put a little video in here. I shot this trying to see if it would do 10.5, and it's about this close. I would say that if you were to set this at 10.0, it would have no problem. My use for this is I use it with my autocockers because you don't want a full-on. Well, I mean, you can make them work with a force feed, but you don't need to have force feed because your rate of fire is not super high, and you can run into some issues with autocockers using force feed hoppers. And so I love this as a hopper on my autococker. It doesn't have any ramps, but you can see the tray, and I might as well pull this out here. There's a front clip. And you push on that front clip just a little bit, and the tray comes out. Super simple. You can see the 4 AA's. It uses eyes, by the way, to turn, much like our Spire Ir here that we're going to talk about in a minute. But it doesn't have a spring ramps, but you can see the clear curve to the way the floor of it is. Paint never has any problem flowing down towards this agitator. You never shake it. Very good feed consistency. And even this part, even the tray is just tough as nails. I mean, you try to bend this around, I can't even flex this hardly at all. It's super tough. Easy on paint. You can see the speed of the agitator is not particularly high, right? By the way, if I stick my finger in here, it'll stop, and then it'll start. That's the eyes working. It's kind of funny. It sounds like it's going fast, but it doesn't move particularly quickly. Easy on paint, and if you stop it with your finger, see if I can catch it, it stops, right? So yeah, all around solid function, very inexpensive, and like I said, we're going to take a look at this here in a minute, and you can watch it feeding nearly 10.5. I mean, it's just about right on the edge, does it. So to put it back together, this, I think the back actually goes in first. Yep, back in first, and then super simple. You just put the nose in the little space there, push the clip together, and then like I said, there's a little retainer that you pull up now so they don't accidentally release it. Done. The speed feed for this is made by Paintball DNA. It's a 3D printed piece, and what they do is, let me get to my price list here again. These are $15. They don't come with the rubber part. This is a universal exalt speed feed. I think I bought this one for $8 on eBay. They're typically $10 to $12 roughly. So if you want to use this with a speed feed, Paintball DNA, I'll put a link below. It works great. I've had no problems with it. These come in a bunch of, I'm not sure if they're making the feeds in a bunch of colors or the frame of it, but the rubber part you can buy in all kinds of colors from Exalt. So if you want to put a little splash of color on there, you can do that. But when you put it all together with all the pieces, it's about $90. And like I said, if you, especially, I would say, if you shoot a mech, especially an autococker, this is a great. I mean, for me, I got to tell you, I've used Revies with autocockers forever, and this is replacing the Revy for me. It feeds great. It's super tough. The fact that just the fact that I can take it apart and clean it in just a few seconds. That alone is enough to replace the Revy for me. It does weigh a little bit more than a Revy, but that's one of those things. I mean, I'm already shooting an autococker, which is not particularly lightweight. I just don't notice the extra weight when I'm playing, but it is there for sure. So pick one up in your local store and kind of check it out and see what you think. But yeah, $65, and then if you want to go the extra mile and get the extra accessories, you're up to about $90. But very good value, super tough. This thing will just never be killed. I think you could run this over with a car and it wouldn't die. So there we have the Speedster. All right, next we have the Virtue Spire Ir2. This is Virtue's sort of, I don't want to say entry level because it's very high performance, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But for Virtue's hoppers, it's their entry level hopper. It's the least expensive agitator hopper that they make. They've made this Spire IR model, and the IR stands for infrared, meaning it uses eyes. And that's different from the Spire, Spire 3, Spire 4, and the Control, which are all part of the same family. Those all use different variations of their vibration sensing method, which senses the vibration of the shot in order to get the agitator or the force feed mechanism to turn. And the IRs do not do that. They have the tried and true eye system, and I'm going to get to why I think that's actually a superior system here in a minute. But these are $129.95. They don't come with a spring ramp or a speed feed. They come just like this. The spring ramps are $10, and the speed feed is $45, making it $185 altogether. If you want to put that all together. By the way, here's the NTR speed feed that fit on here. You can get the crown as well. I know many of you are familiar with these speed feeds already. It's the same system that you get in the Spire 3, Spire 4, and Control. This is held on just by a clip. So you can pop that off, pop in the speed feed, and now you've got a speed feed. And that's really cool to be able to change that really quickly. The original Spire had a back portion lid like the Spire IR does, but not with the quick release. So you had to either swap that whole entire back piece to put a rain lid versus speed feed, or you had to push the pin out and fiddle around with it. It was annoying to change it. So they have the clip part on the Spire IR, which is cool, and the IR2, no different. So that's very cool. Unlike the previous Spire IR, in fact, I have one here. Let me grab. I got it right here. This gel. this is an original Spire IR, and I can't even remember. Oh yeah, there's a tray in there. This is the original. This is the new one, the IR2. The profile is nearly identical. I mean, I think it is identical, and in fact, the trays are the same. It's a new shell is really what you're getting, and this is the old style work. It did have that same clip, which is cool, but if you want to take this off, push the little lever up, push the button, and this part comes off, and the rest of this does not easily come apart. And then you reach in to take the tray out. Not a terrible design, but in aggressive play, diving around, when you bang these on something, for example, they have been known to come apart at this lid. And also, it's easy to put together and think that it's secure, and it's actually not, in which case, as soon as you bump it on something, this whole piece pops off, which wasn't ideal. Not a huge issue, but it wasn't ideal. And the IR2 now does away with that. So let's take this apart. The IR2 has a very simple little catch here, and you pop it up, and the whole thing just comes apart. Very nice, easy to take apart, super easy to get it to where you can clean it. Here's the spring ramp, as I mentioned, doesn't come with it, $10. I've got that in there. And then there's a clip. This is the same mechanism. It's literally the same tray as the IR and the IR2. Same mechanism, all that. One thing they did change is the little tower here. This is the mechanism. It's a little slippery. Here we go. I've got the other one from the old IR here. You can see that they've cut this out. This is sort of in the control hopper has, it's not the same as this, but it's similar in that it's cut out, I guess, to make it lighter. I weighed them. It weighs, let's see, 0.26 ounces less than this, which is a very small amount of difference, but it does weigh less. I have no idea if that makes a difference. I will say, I've seen a couple of reviews on the internet where people talk about how the IR2 spins faster, and it does. But I don't know if that's because of the motor or the logic, but people say that it's because they cut this out and made it lighter. That is not the reason. I swapped these. They fit right on. You can put either one on, and it spins at exactly the same speed. It's the gearing of the motor or the programming that is sending more power to the motor, or some combination of the two. I don't know what the difference is. It does spin a little bit faster, but it's nothing to do with the cutout. That speed is limited by how much power the motor gets and what the gearing of the motor is. So it's neither here nor there, really. But I mean, I guess if you have one of these as spares, you can save it, and when your little splines eventually wear out, you can put your old Spire IR one in, and I am certain you would not see any performance difference if you were to do that. But it is new and different. So there you go. These feed wonderfully. I'm about to show you a video here where I have set my prime up to shoot at 12.5. You'll hear people, I always say, right, I hang around on the Facebook buy-sell trade groups, and people talk about things and ask questions. What is this one better than that one, or whatever? And when people ask, people love to justify why they've spent a lot of money or why the high-end thing is the best thing. These feed at least 12.5 balls a second, which is more than pretty much any of us are playing at these days, right? And I'm going to show you that video in a minute. So feed rate-wise, absolutely no issues with this. This will do everything you need it to do, no matter what kind of paintball you play. If you are looking for ultimate rate of fire because you're playing uncapped semi or whatever, then none of the Spires are really going to be your favorite thing. You're going to want to go with an R2 probably. That's a rotor, to get that super high rate of fire. But within our normal constraints of the 10-2 world, plenty of performance with this. Speaking of performance, I mentioned the IR means infrared. Now, I mentioned too that this is the entry-level hopper for Virtue, and it is. And I don't like to use that term, though, because it's easy to go together, right? It's pretty cool. Because entry-level makes it sound like it's, if you're going to really get serious, you better buy a better one. Well, that is not the case. I believe that this is the highest performance hopper when you combine all the factors of performance that exists. Funny, the trays of these, since they go back to the original IR, which in turn goes back to the original Spire, they're all the same shape, and you can put a Spire IR or IR2 tray in an old Spire 260 shell, and that's my go-to hopper. I have 3 of them where I call them Frankenhoppers. They're 260 shells with Spire IR trays, and for me, because I like that extra capacity, best hopper that exists. And I'm gonna tell you why I think that. I mentioned that the higher end ones from Virtue all use a variation of the vibration sensing, where the shock from the shot is what tells it, oh, you fired a ball, so feed some more. And then they have, depending on which model you have, they have different logic about how long they feed or when they stop or whatever. But the basic idea is that when it feels the shock, it feeds the paint. That's at its base level, that's what it does. To me, that whole technology is answering a question that no one is asking. Like, how is that better than an eye system that is hardwired to the drive of the hopper, and as soon as the paint moves through those eyes, it immediately feeds? I've thought that since I first learned about that vibration technology, and nothing has changed my mind. And interestingly, the most modern, highest-end iteration of this technology is the Spire 4, and this was initially introduced with the Spire with the Ace. I mean, that Lux thing that that was kind of a disaster, that whole thing. But anyway, the Ace, which is a Lux X, that's like reborn by Virtue with the weird plastic parts that everybody hates and all that, but it had the connection wirelessly between the gun and the hopper, and now you can take a standard Spire 4 and buy it and connect it wirelessly, they call it iFi, to your CS2. And what happens is once you make that wireless connection, the gun feeds information to the hopper using its eyes, meaning the eyes directly communicate with the hopper so that as soon as the ball fires, it tells the hopper that it needs to feed. And they tout this as an advancement in hopper technology where, there's never been such a sophisticated direct communication right from the gun straight to the hopper to tell it to feed the paint. And we've seen that before, dating back, over 20 years, literally. People have had variations of this where there were wired connections from the gun to the hopper, where it went from the trigger circuit, actually, or initially, when the trigger fired, it would feed the paint. But what I want to know, and I've never got an answer for this yet, and I've asked a lot of times to a lot of people, how is it better to have a wireless connection to the eyes of the gun, which is at the bottom of the stack, right? So if something about that communication hesitates for even a fraction, or has a little bit of a stutter, or doesn't see the signal right away, or what have you, that's right at the breech, right? It's looking at the very ball that's being fired. It's at the bottom of the stack. So if that happens and the thing doesn't feed, potentially you could have a space in that stack, right? How is that better than having the same eye system higher in the stack where there's a multi-ball buffer below it, and those eyes are hardwired to the drive so that as soon as the stack moves, the drive goes? For me, this hopper is, in my opinion, the highest performance hopper that you can buy. I can shoot whatever hopper I want. I just had a Spire 4 here brand new, and I sold it because I think my Spire 260s with IR trays are better hoppers. They feed great. They don't rely on the vibration. And when I say that system is mostly reliable, but depending on what gun you shoot, for example, when I first put a Spire 3, again, that's one of the vibration sensing ones, on my Vanquish, that had such a soft shot that initially I thought I had an eye problem with my Vanquish. It was before I learned how those Spires worked exactly, and because I wasn't feeding properly. I thought the eyes were jacked up in my gun. And it turned out that I needed to go and program that Spire 3 to change the sensitivity of the vibration sensing so that it would feed paint. And it kind of all circles back to my whole an answer to a question nobody's asking. Like, the eyes work great. Now, the one issue with eyes, and this is what people say, and it's true, if you soup up this thing, like if you take a huge header or it goes flying off your gun and smashes on the ground and busts paint everywhere so badly that the eyes get covered with paint, then it won't feed. That's true. But I would submit that if you have that much soup in your hopper, you've got to take it apart and clean it anyway. I mean, you're not going to, if you have so much paint in there, like let's say you had your Spire 3 vibration sensing jobber, and so much paint was in there that the feed tube was covered with broken paint. You can't keep shooting anyway. I mean, you're not going to hit it. You couldn't hit anything from 5 feet away if your paint was that bad. The thing would just be a blender. So, I mean, is there some kind of possibility that paint would get on it in a way that would make this not work, but not enough that it would be bad and another hopper work? I mean, I don't know, maybe that's possible, but yeah, I mean, people have used various hoppers, a bunch of different hoppers from different companies for years with eyes. It's a great proven technology. It's reliable. This is no different. And for the price, I don't see how you can beat it. So, I'm going to cut here real quick to the video, and I'm going to show, I kind of skipped around here. I'm going to show you the Speedster here shooting, like I said, I attempted it at 10.5, and it fell a little bit short, but if you wanted to use it as a spare, and, you know, you could turn your gun down to 10.0, I believe, and it would completely shoot fine. That way you wouldn't have to invest a bunch of money in a spare, or maybe you need a spare for your electro tournaments, but you need a third hopper because you also play mech tournaments with an autococker. At least you wouldn't need 3 hoppers, right? You could use this as your mech hopper and also as your spare for your electro events. But yeah, so let's take a look at those, and we'll just come back and wrap things up. Hey guys, I'm out here on this cold Christmas Eve day. Check out this Speedster hopper. It's got the Paintball DNA speed feed that they just made up for this thing. I've got a nearly full hopper, and the point of this, all I did is I've taken individual crony shots, but I haven't ramped yet. And we're gonna see if this hopper can successfully ramp. It's set at full 10.5, not 10.2 or whatever. And I'm gonna rip through this hopper and see if it can make it. I have no idea if it's gonna work or not. We're gonna find out together. So here we go, Speedster hopper on 10.5. Pretty good. Give me run out of air. Shot a couple blanks there. Oh, I think you know what? It's almost empty. I realized I had the eyes off because I had lubed the bolt, and I test shot it in there, and I just did that with no eyes. So we did miss a couple shots there. It's almost done. That was just at the bottom. I'm missing, but a couple more. Yeah, that's it. So I think that was pretty good. Like I said, the eyes were off, so I think that those misses as the hopper got lower were probably made worse. You know, it would have fired one blank and fed and kept going instead of like a couple blanks in a row. And judging by that, I would say that you can certainly get away with shooting 10.5. I think that's probably seems like it's right on the edge, right? Like if we put it up to 12, it might not hold. But I would say that's close enough that you could use this and ramp to 10.5 and not have an issue. We had shot through a good 3/4 of the hopper before there were any blanks. And like I said, I just realized the eyes were off. And normally what would have happened, I think, is we would have had one no shot and it would have fed and kept going instead of those couple repeat blanks we had. But pretty good for whatever this is, $70, right? All right, thanks. Hey folks, we're here taking a look at the Spire Ir2. I've got this full of paint. Well, I just shot a couple to crony it, but it's pretty full. Hopefully you can see that. And I've got this set. See if I can get this in front of the camera. 12.5 ramping. And we're gonna see how much headroom we've got. I mean, maybe it'll go even faster than 12.5. I haven't tried this model until just now. I've only shot it at 10.2. And we're gonna see if it can keep up at 12.5 for this whole hopper. And here we go. Pretty good. There's only 2 balls left, I think. 3, that's it. That was pretty good. Now, there were a couple hesitations in there. There were 2. and I'm certain one of them was my finger. I didn't get all the way back, and the shooting actually paused. The other one I think was my finger, but I can't be sure. We'll say 50-50. But, I mean, I think it's safe to say that it can keep up at 12.5. And if it can keep up at 12.5, it certainly can keep up at 10.2, which is what we're all shooting. So, here it is. Spire Ir2. So, yeah, of everything on the market, my two favorite hoppers right here. If I'm using, you know, for mech play or a loner, or if people are looking for a recommendation for a field hopper that is an agitator hopper but still tough and can stand the rigors of rental use, this thing is great. I mentioned it does not come with the speed feed, so if you are a person who wants to use a speed feed, a field wouldn't care about that, I'm sure, but if you're an individual and you want to use this thing, paintballdna.com, I will put a link below. Super cheap. You can get the whole shoot and match here for where is it, 90 bucks total, which is pretty good for a new hopper, and like I said, super amazingly tough, works great. Spire Ir2 uses eyes, proven technology, very solid update they've done with the new shell here. That cutout tower, I'm not sure really what benefit that has, if any. Maybe it's cheaper to manufacture, would be my guess, and that's okay, as long as it's just as reliable, and I see no reason why it wouldn't. Not a performance issue, but that is one of the updates. This great shell that just pops apart so easily, very good design, excellent performance, like I said, and in my opinion, I don't believe you can buy a higher performance hopper unless you're going for super high rates of fire, in which case you need to go to a rotor if you're trying to do, you know, 20 balls a second or something. But apart from that, I don't think one more dollar than the 185 all done, right? That's the ramp and the speed feed. I don't think that any hopper is higher performance than this, period. Not for a cheap one or anything like that, just it's a great hopper, always has been. And if you need a hopper, you should try one. Also, you should let me know what you think. Put some comments below. I always ask for you guys to like my videos and subscribe, and I sure would appreciate if you do that here. Let me know what you think. Maybe you've used some Spire IRs and you have something to talk about with it, or you have a different idea of some you know, commonly used or available inexpensive hoppers that you want to talk about. I will mention that there are still some older models available. The Prophecy, I think it's called a Z2 now, hoppers, or older style from Empire, are still excellent hoppers, but they're bulky. They're, you know, they're just, the materials aren't as good. They're not as tough. And I just think that kind of time has passed those older hoppers by, and this is the new thing, in my opinion, or the current thing, I guess. Not that new, but great hopper. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.